breeders at an aquatic farm in the Lop Nur Lake area at the rim of China's largest desert, the Taklamakan, in northwest China.
The Shengsang Autonomous Region of China is located in the far northwest of the country, where China borders Mongolia and Kazakhstan. This is no ordinary region, it's an immense area, spanning over 618,000 square miles. In fact, it is the 8th largest region in the world. However, only about 9.7% of Shengsang's land is suitable for living, with the rest consisting of dry meadows and deserts. In fact, the region is home to 3 vast deserts, making it the driest in China. When the deserts end, towering mountain ranges begin, making it an inhospitable place to live. Based on its location, it's easy to figure out that the region has no access to the sea, with the nearest coastline being thousands of miles away. According to the Guinness World Records, Archi, the capital of the Shengsang Autonomous Region, is farther from the sea than any other city in the world. Now, imagine a dry, barren, desert-like region. This is exactly where China decided to introduce millions of fish, crabs, and other marine life. At first glance, this seems almost impossible, but there's an interesting story behind it. But before diving into the details, let me remind you to hit the like button in case you tend to forget. So, we're talking about the Taklamakan Desert, often referred to as the Sea of Death. This region receives minimal rainfall, experiences high evaporation, and is frequently struck by sandstorms. For a long time, the environment here posed significant challenges. However, recently, everything changed. One day, deep in the heart of the Taklamakan Desert, a few individuals activated control panels, sparking the beginning of local aquaculture. A total of 100,000 seafish fry, including species like gold silk sea bream, grouper, and mud skippers, were placed into specially constructed ponds. Upon release, they immediately began to compete for food, creating a lively scene in stark contrast to the surrounding endless desert. Despite the harsh conditions, the fry quickly adapted to their new habitat. After careful breeding, the survival rate reached an impressive 99%. This marked the beginning of a massive project, and today, tens of thousands of people in this water-scarce inland province rely on fishing for their livelihoods. In fact, in 2016, the average income of fishermen in Shengsang reached 16,600 yuan, around $2,300, which was more than $800 higher than the average income of local farmers. It may seem strange and almost impossible, but in the basins of desert rivers once prone to droughts, there are now vast fish farming operations. These farms are located in lakes suitable for aquaculture, such as Boson Lake, Law Lake, and Xiom Lake. At first, the very idea of farming fish in the desert seems completely absurd, like trying to harvest timber in Antarctica. But surprisingly, it turned out that it's not as impossible as it sounds. The primary challenge was the environmental conditions, but the desert offers plenty of sunlight and a large temperature difference between day and night. This actually benefits certain marine organisms. Although sandstorms are common in the region, the district's meteorological bureau has set up a sophisticated network of weather monitoring systems in the fish farming areas. Using advanced forecasting models, the bureau provides farmers with 48-hour weather forecasts, issuing warnings about potential sandstorms, heatwaves, strong winds, cold snaps, and other extreme weather conditions. This gives farmers enough time to take protective measures. In fact, it was the meteorological services that played a crucial role in the success of introducing the fish fry. The Bureau predicted weather changes and identified the most suitable windows for transporting the fry, which greatly improved their survival rate. Additionally, during the construction phase, a research team developed an ecological smart system to maintain water temperatures between 64 degrees Fahrenheit and 86 degrees Fahrenheit, which is optimal for fish growth. This addressed the critical temperature issue for aquaculture in the desert. Now, you may be wondering how water, necessary for raising fish, was even available in such a dry, desolate region. As it turns out, the desert is not entirely devoid of water. On the northwest edge of the Taklamakan Desert, there are 107 acres of saline, alkaline waters that are part of a national protected area. Additionally, there are rivers, lakes, and reservoirs. While the climate is indeed very dry and there's abundant sunshine, the region does have water sources. In total, despite its distance from the ocean, Shengsang has 2,100 square miles of water bodies. These waters are home to over 500 species of small organisms that could serve as food for the farmed fish. However, there's a catch: though there is water and some organisms living in it, the water is so salty that, for a long time, it was considered completely useless. The soil is also saline and alkaline, which traditionally made it unsuitable for growing crops and lowered water quality. Nevertheless, China found a way to turn this disadvantage into an advantage. It all started with the Hongqi farm, where an experimental project was launched to farm sea fish in saline alkaline water. Of course, it wasn't as simple as just releasing fish into such conditions and hoping for the best. After numerous experiments funded by the southern Chinese province of Guangdong, trace elements were discovered that could modify slightly less than New York City's land area. These elements, fish and seafood farming, is progressing rapidly, and potassium by 2023 are harmless to human health and are inexpensive. 184,000 tons of using these elements, a circulation system was created that transformed the local saline lake water into seawater. The local government predicts that by 2025, the total value of Shengsang's aquaculture industry will reach nearly $3 billion. This led to the development of several patented inventions. There were 6 stimulated the farming enterprises involved in aquaculture in Shengsang. As a result, the salinity level in the natural water bodies of Shengsang now closely resembles 305,000 green crabs. If you're wondering why fish farming is taking place in the desert in the first place, the answer is simple: economics. Production volumes continue to grow. This is part of China's ambitious plan to turn this arid region into an aquaculture hub. In 2010, the government has been encouraging private investments in aquaculture. There were no fish in the lake until 1990. When a local aquaculture organization decided to Shengsang is now used by restaurants in many Chinese cities. At first, the survival rate of the fish for Shengsang to become a significant region for fish and seafood production. By 2000, local fisheries authorities invested $520,000 into the industry farming growing and gaining focusing on infrastructure and breeding technologies. The sparsely populated investment allowed the company to hire more specialists for research, offer the perfect environment some room producing high-quality products. Work tirelessly. Innovation is making this dream a reality. To achieve small breakthroughs today, in artificial Shengsang is far from the same place it was over the next 20 years ago. Their efforts paid off. At the start of this century, they improved most technology and optimized incubation methods, imported from elsewhere, the survival rate of the farmers and livestock breeders had never even eaten fish in their entire lives. After hatching in the spring, today, the fry were placed in new not only where they could grow up to 1.6 inches into countries like Japan, Finland. This was a huge achievement, as in 1998, these nations, known for their own seafood industry, they grew only 7 inches in 3 months. By the area of most of the surviving fish were released into the deserts of Shengsang, while the remaining fish were bought by local farmers also involved in about the size of Memphis. The fish in the lake take 3 to 4 years to reach optimal market weight, over 2 pounds. Thanks to all this research, Siram Lake has become a major hub for cold water fish production, and the company is now one of China's largest exporters of northern whitefish, with an annual output of over 400 tons. So, what kinds of fish are farmed in Shengsang? A wide range of species, including freshwater fish, king prawns, abalone, and lobsters, are raised. For instance, one farm successfully raised South American white shrimp in 2023, and in May 2024, they began trial attempts to farm grouper. However, shrimp are especially popular in the region due to their excellent taste and quality, which resemble ocean seafood. On another farm, they experimented with various seafood, from shrimp to lobsters, but eventually settled on tilapia because it turned out to be both profitable and easy to grow. In fact, the farm built 165 acres of fish ponds, raising 650,000 tilapia in a short period and earning over $1 million. Meanwhile, at Boson Lake, a record-breaking 4,000-plus tons of crabs were harvested in 2023. That year also saw record numbers of shrimp and even salmon. The local salmon is processed, packed, and delivered to consumers' tables within 24 hours of being caught. It's truly remarkable, salmon grown in the desert. Although many of the species farmed in Shengsang are quite picky, requiring high-quality water for spawning with strict temperature and salinity requirements, all of these conditions have been met. Shengsang doesn't just produce fish and seafood, but also pearls. Yes, pearls are the latest achievement in Shengsang's aquaculture sector. The pearl farming project was launched in 2012, but it only recently gained attention in 2023. Investors began farming about 2 million pearl oysters and plan to start selling their first pearls in the second half of 2025. The fact that these pearls are being farmed in the desert may actually increase their value. Interestingly, the climate of Shengsang, with its significant temperature fluctuations between day and night and ample sunshine, is perfect for pearl farming as well as for certain fish species. These conditions contribute to the pearl's rich luster and special texture. Special technologies have been developed to transform organic waste produced by fish into essential nutrients like amino acids and nitrates, which are crucial for the growth and health of aquatic plants. These plants, in turn, provide nutrient-rich food for the pearl oysters. The oysters help improve the water quality of local lakes, reducing the cost of water purification for the aqua farms. This is a perfect example of the circle of life in action. The products farmed in Shengsang aren't just sold locally, they are also exported to other countries. The Shengsang seafood brand has gained popularity on Chinese social media, and people are seriously discussing the potential for seafood production in other inland areas of China. What particularly appeals to consumers is the eco-friendly nature of these products. Many people are concerned about the safety of seafood, especially after hearing about Japan's plans to release radioactive wastewater into the sea. In general, oceans are becoming more polluted, while the desert waters in Shengsang are unexpectedly clean and free from harmful impurities. This, of course, has a positive impact on the region's economy. Jobs at a single farm can increase the annual income of each of the 30 local households by $2,000 to $2,700. As more types of fish are introduced, the number of households benefiting from aquaculture will likely grow. In 2023, the volume of online retail sales of aquatic products in Shengsang reached $54.2 million, an increase of 16.26% compared to the previous year. These numbers continue to rise. One of Shengsang's key advantages is its ability to meet the demand for seafood in China, reducing the country's reliance on imports. This is a significant step towards self-sufficiency in the seafood sector, providing jobs for over 3,000 people and helping the region become the leader in aquaculture production among China's northwest provinces. The growth of Shengsang's salmon farming is a clear sign of its future potential. For example, as it attracts more investments to expand the El River Valley in western Shengsang as far back as the 1970s. While seafood farming in the desert may seem paradoxical, it's an example of how innovation and infrastructure development had established a full-cycle salmon farming system that allows them to agricultural process and sell salmon with improved local infrastructure beyond fish and seafood. Rail, the desert is proving to be fertile ground for other agricultural projects such as sea rice can now be delivered efficiently in the Taklamakan Desert. Researchers have managed to grow rice using fish from the desert, something that would typically be impossible in desert conditions. Sea rice is resilient to salt and alkali stress, which allows it to thrive on saline alkaline lands that would otherwise be unsuitable for regular rice farming. It has been hair. Since 2018, experimental fields have been created to the otherwise business-heavy by 2023, the area salmon of saline alkaline land has flourished in Shengsang, reached 4,900 over the past decade. Tens of thousands of tons of salmon have been transforming barren land into fertile soil, but for bringing much-needed economic benefits to local farmers. Tannen has pioneered eco-friendly farming systems, around 2,100 acres were planted, and the harvest was impressive. They were the first in China to build a semi-closed recirculating aquaculture system and develop the country's first underwater cleaning robot. As the experiment continues, it shows promising progress for future rice production in these desert areas. With an output capacity of 12,000 tons. In addition to farming challenges, Shengsang is experiencing unusual weather events. Recently, videos surfaced showing floodwaters flowing through the Taklamakan Desert, sparking interest on social media. Flooding is rare in this desert, as the region has an average annual precipitation of less than 4 inches. However, in 2024, prolonged high temperatures and heavy rainfall led to the melting of glacier and snow, causing water flow to exceed warning levels in some tributaries of the Tarim River basin. This led to the rare occurrence of floods, which affected over 116 square miles of desert land, reminding everyone that even deserts can face surprising changes. All these developments, from the aquaculture boom to sea rice farming and unusual floods, highlight the resilience and adaptability of Shengsang's environment and people. The region's innovative use of technology and research is shaping a future where even the most challenging landscapes can sustain and thrive with the right care and ingenuity. It's fascinating to think that floods in a desert might have the potential to make the soil more fertile, but in the case of the Taklamakan Desert, it doesn't seem to have a lasting positive impact. As you mentioned, while the floods bring a huge amount of water, much of it comes from the melting glacier in the mountains. Once the glacier have melted and the water flow decreases, the desert will return to its usual dry, barren state. Although some areas of the desert may temporarily become wetter, this effect is short-lived. The water doesn't have time to penetrate deeply into the ground or rejuvenate the soil for sustained agricultural growth. Essentially, while the floods might offer some immediate wetness to the region, they don't lead to long-term fertility or transformation of the desert into arable land. It's a reminder that deserts, no matter how much water temporarily floods them, have a resilience to return to their natural state due to the harsh environmental conditions that prevail, such as extreme heat and low precipitation. Though the floods might look dramatic and spark excitement, they don't change the desert's overall character or make it an ideal location for sustainable farming in the long run. The unique conditions in places like the Taklamakan Desert continue to challenge scientists and researchers. However, the success of more controlled, deliberate efforts like the sea rice farming you mentioned earlier shows that innovative agricultural techniques can still work in desert environments when carefully managed.